wanted to like tip that in your face.
I felt like there was something there.
I just wanted to go,
just the look in your eyes, something wanted to happen.
did you get cut?
No, I didn't get cut about that shit.
If I tipped coffee all over your face.
Like, it'd be a bit dog, but like we're in the middle of a podcast, we're throwing me off. I get what you're saying.
You need a slap. 111.
Yeah, but just like hurry up, bitches.
You went straight into
I know!
We're the same person.
Hello and welcome back to the Consciously Thriving podcast. Hi guys, we are back. We are here. We are doing an episode. Thank God.
I know we've had some time off, but with
Yeah.
good reason. Shulzy got COVID.
I did have COVID and I went through my own death and rebirth cycle through that whole process, but it was all necessary, all needed, and we're back. We're ready to do this. We're really, really excited about the topic we're going to talk about today. So
It's a hot topic, but before we go further, maybe you can add this into your, we film reels on these things. Maybe let's just take a step back when you said you weren't an energetic match to COVID.
absolutely.
See if we can do that. That was so good.
Oh my God. Do I have that in the...
Yeah, watch
I?
this reel. If you guys watch it, go onto our Instagram story.
like a little
Sorry to add
teaser.
another task to your list, but that would be pretty funny.
Oh my God.
Says she's not an energetic match. Laughs that I got COVID.
Yeah.
Gets COVID.
Oh my God, guys, I had the biggest head. When my partner had COVID, I was like, you watch Nads. I was like, I'm not going to get it because I'm not an energetic match. Literally day after I got it.
To be honest, I actually was with you on that. I was like, nah.
I'm not going to get it. No,
not gonna
no. It makes so much sense as to why I got it. I honestly was like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, what the fuck to my guys. I was like, seriously, guys? Like, what? But it made so much sense as to why I had to get it in the way that I had to get it. I really had to revisit some old past feelings. I mean, if you want to hear the story, I did a YouTube video on it, so you can visit my YouTube channel to check that one out. It's just my name, Shuley Ozek, so it's SHULEOZEK. And you can listen to the story there. But it was all necessary, and I know you're being a little smart-ass about it.
Had to take it.
Had to take it, I know. But anyway, we're going to talk about limiting beliefs today, and this has just been like a hot topic for me and Nats. We actually have joined this program together called Pleasure Codes. So it's like a manifestation portal. It's run by our womb coach, Anna Gasol. She's taught us, she's guided us through this journey of reconnecting back to our womb and reconnecting back to our feminine essence. You know, she's been on the podcast before, so you may have actually heard her before, but you know, she's been such a potent change in our lives.
Absolutely. She's amazing. So at the moment, what we're learning to do is manifest with pleasure.
Yes,
you heard that right.
Manifest with pleasure. So we're actually infusing our manifestations with this like sacred, sexual, feminine energy. It's a group of women, and you know, the women in the group are so beautiful. It's just such a potent manifestation portal. But a big part of being in this like accountability group is the fact that we are keeping each other accountable to show up every day and work through our limiting beliefs, which is key.
Absolutely. This is what I like to say to clients and whatnot, to my audience. At the end of the day, there's like many steps to not many, but there's big steps to the manifestation process. But if you do want to create change in your life, it comes with reprogramming the subconscious mind, and it's working through your limiting beliefs, which we're going to delve into today anyway. But this is key. If you want to make change, if you're sitting here going, okay, I'm listening to this because I want to actually make change, it starts with the limiting beliefs.
Absolutely. It starts with this like nitty-gritty repetitive work that we are going to get into. So we're just going to give you like all of the tea basically what a limiting belief is, where it comes from, how to identify them, and then how to actually do the reprogramming and create that lasting change in your life, which is what we all want.
Yes. So let's just take a step back and go, what the hell is a fucking limiting belief, right? Yeah. I feel like this term gets thrown around a lot, and if you're new to the word, you're like, the fuck is that?
Yeah.
But basically what it is a thought or a belief that hinders you from basically going after your potential, and it has a negative association from it with it. Sorry. So if you, as example of a limiting belief would be like, I'm not a good public speaker, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough. These are all limiting you from going after what you want. They're just negative thoughts that don't actually exist. They're parts of your with your programming that you've developed over time.
It's a perfect definition of them. That's exactly what they are. And so in order to like figure out where these beliefs come from, we need to now look at our mind and how our mind works, right? So when we look at the mind is basically divided into two categories. Let's say the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. So the subconscious mind is responsible for about 95% of the reality that you're experiencing in this physical world, right? And the conscious mind is responsible for about 5% of what you're experiencing. So this is why, you've probably heard us like talk about, oscillating in and out of the subconscious mind to like going back to subconscious programming and then consciously creating change. So basically, what we want to do is now look at the subconscious mind. If it's creating 95% of what we are experiencing, we need to take a step back and we need to be like, okay, well, what influenced my subconscious mind to carry these beliefs and to create these experiences in my life, right? This is when we go back to our childhood. So back to when you were actually an infant in your mother's womb. That is when you will start to like absorb your understanding of the world through like your mum. You'll like start to absorb the vibrations that she's emitting and the things exactly what she's going through. So they say from the ages of 0 to 7 is when you're most like heavily programmed. You're a sponge. You're absorbing the world. So the people, the experiences, the society or community you're a part of, all of that is influencing your understanding of the world.
And if you think of it like this, like you didn't know good from bad, you didn't have a belief system when you were in that womb. And you often hear a lot of women when they are pregnant talk about, or that have had experiences, that experience in the womb, if the mum has been very stressed, then their first, I'm not going to say it all the time, but like their experience on Earth side sometimes is very stressful as well, because they've picked up that energy in the womb. So a lot of women do focus on being calm and stuff like that. This is why you often see women being very working on their mindset, working on all that stuff when they're in the womb, because it's energy. Energy's real.
I'm gonna do that when I'm pregnant.
I'm gonna be
zen the entire time now. Just gonna be in a zen state constantly.
Yeah,
because it does really
you pick up a lot like that. That's where it all starts from. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So you're absorbing those experiences from that time, and then as you're going through life, you're still gaining this like belief system and understanding of the world. So the things that you go through in school, the things that your teachers say to you, the things that your guardians say to you, it all impacts the way that like the things that you believe about yourself to be true, the things that you believe about the world, the things you believe about success, the things you believe about money. I mean, the list is endless. And these things can be positive and these things can be limiting.
Yeah, they definitely can be. So before you can even begin to understand where your limiting beliefs are, because I know that's where a lot of your thoughts would be going, is like, well, how do I identify what's a limiting belief and what's not, right? And we'll get into that. But the main thing I want to express is the first step, and we have spoken about this before, you have to gain a self-awareness practice. You have to quiet the mind to even understand that there are actually two voices coming through, right?
Absolutely. I agree. This has been like the biggest one for me in actually developing this self-awareness practice. Personally, I always had the outlook of everything is happening to me, like, you know this to be true.
I think a lot of us have had that programming. This
is really funny. You're gonna laugh because remember when I was like completely not aware and not conscious, but I would blame everything that has ever happened to me, anything bad, anything that goes wrong, on everybody else.
Yeah, and because Shule did have this belief within her that like life was happening to her, and look, we've all had like, don't feel too bad if this is something you used to experience. I did too, but this was on a level that she actually, like, every time she came along to a family, a little bit about me is I used to go water skiing a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I still do, but as a kid, a tradition of mine, families, has been water skiing. Every time she came, she had this belief that she was bad luck, and every fucking time something would fuck up. Like, to the point where my dad has been under the boat, like, trying to get ropes that got stuck. Just this energy of, like, she was manifesting this bad luck, right?
Yes.
Even though we digress there, the point is, Sheila was, like, living this life in that way, living this life with this belief that bad things were happening to her. And it wasn't only until she started to meditate and gain a self-awareness practice that she was able to distinguish the two voices in her head.
Yeah, like, honestly, I didn't understand this concept of, like, higher self and ego. For me, it was just anxiety and this, like, egoic voice that was loud, repetitive, constantly, like, repeating these, like, anxious things and, like, these negative limiting beliefs, like the way that I perceive the world, like, just on repeat in my head, right? These limiting beliefs and those thoughts about being bad luck and all of that. So I had this, like, on repeat. So for me, I actually had to take a step back, and before I could even start reprogramming and identifying, you know, what was there, what wasn't there, I had to get to know myself. I had to get to know my mind. And that actually meant meditating, actually taking a step back and starting a meditation practice, showing up every single day. Breathwork paired with meditation was like my savior.
That combination.
It's next level.
Your body, it just goes into this state of, like, what's that word? It's like euphoric.
Yeah,
it's like euphoric. Like, your body is just so relaxed. Anyway,
breathwork allows you to actually activate that vagus nerve, and that activates your parasympathetic nervous system. Which, bad, how, like, on repeat is that sentence? But, like, that is meant to completely calm that fight or flight response that most of us are in. And it gets you to this point of just being there with your mind, being there with yourself. And you end up being able to basically quiet the mind enough to a point of actually hearing your higher self, your intuition kick in. It's, like, really, really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Like through that, honestly, guys, through doing that, like, when I got into my meditation practice, I was a complete atheist. I had no belief of this world. I didn't even know any of this existed. I was not psychic one bit. I had no sense of intuition, nothing.
Yeah.
And when I did this, like, I discovered all of this, like, you know, this subtle energetic world that, you know, this universe is made up on.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's powerful.
And what, you know, the meditation isn't just for that moment. If you can set yourself up for the day, if you can set yourself up where you're already calm, then throughout the day, you're going to continue to project that energy. And, like, when things are happening to you, you know, you generally become more of a calm person, don't you reckon?
Yeah. I remember the first time I, like, walked myself off of a panic attack. Like, I remember
that.
I was experiencing panic attacks at that point, where if you've experienced a panic attack, then you know that once the thought comes and that it's like that panic attack is starting, it's like you can't get out of it. You start to hyperventilate and it's a full thing. And I remember it happening. And I was like, fuck. Like, I remember, like, bringing myself back to this place, like, actually being able to talk to myself in that moment and being like, okay, this isn't really true. Like, is this like going to be worth your energy?
So why you want the self-awareness practice is really to get your body out of that fight or flight response, so you become a calmer person.
Yeah, and you become aware of
you
the
become
thoughts,
self-aware.
Right? Yeah, so it's like, yes, that calm aspect is really important, and, like, stabilizing your nervous system is so important. But actually, like, the meditation is so needed, guys. And I mean, like, meditation with yourself, only yourself, nothing else to distract you. Just you be alone with you, because then you're going to start to, like, gain this presence throughout your day as you go about, like, making decisions. Then you start to monitor your behavior throughout the day. And you're like, okay, like, I'm making a decision from here, or, like, I'm feeling emotionally triggered with this situation. So this actually means looking into the triggers that come up throughout the day now, because now you are being present with yourself. You're monitoring your mind and how it works. What are the thoughts that are on repeat? And just, like, a little side note, what I actually did, and I still sometimes do, but I did this at the start of my practice, like, of my spiritual awakening, of trying to become self-aware and with like at the start of this reprogramming practice, but I started to actually write down throughout the day the thoughts that were on loop. So I was like, okay, I see that, you know, I have this thought that bad things happen to me when I'm feeling good. Like, so I write that down, you know, and that like got me to see what like the main things that came up throughout the day were, because they were just on repeat, right? They were just on in my mind. And the reason I say this is because sometimes, like when you're in those meditation practices or you're doing breath work, as you described before, you feel euphoric. So sometimes those beliefs aren't there because you've calmed your nervous system down, but they come about when you go out through your day and you're like presented with your external environment.
Yeah. So like by doing the self-awareness practice, you gain a self-awareness to then be able to identify your triggers, like jealousy, whatever this looks like. A trigger is really anything that I guess it's similar to a limiting belief in the sense that anything that really like affects you in a negative way, or you have a negative response to a situation.
Yeah, so it's like an emotional reaction to something happening in your external environment. So it could be as simple as like you see somebody on social media talking about their success, right? The success of their business, or having so much money, and then you have like, you know, either jealousy or judgment comes up towards them. That is a limiting belief, right? That's a limiting belief that you would hold about yourself, in that you believe that that you believe that it's not yours. That you can't have that thing.
So the trigger would be that you're jealous, but then the limiting belief that's where this work comes in, and we'll go into that as well. But the limiting belief is probably it's the underlying belief that probably you don't think that that's for you, or the thing that this person has. Yeah. You're not worthy of having that, right? That's what the limiting belief is, but the triggers identify the deep limiting belief.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah. That's exactly
it's
right.
It's like going hand in hand. You'll get triggered, and then what your job is to actually explore what the belief is behind that.
Exactly right. So there are going to be some limiting beliefs that you know, that you tell yourself, you know that you have, you know that are there, right? And they're really easy to identify. But then there are going to be other aspects of like limiting beliefs that you hold that maybe you weren't so conscious of them. Like we said, this is in the subconscious mind, which is unconscious to us. We're not consciously aware. So those ones are really, really potent to actually pick out when we actually look at our emotional responses to the things that are happening in the world, like in our world, right?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly how you do it. That's how we've gotten to where we are today, by like it's the biggest thing to understanding what beliefs are within you are your triggers.
Something I pride like ourselves on. One thing that we do so well, I actually haven't high five. I haven't come across people who do this to the level that we do it. Like we have friends like Anna and Cheryl, they definitely do, and like Camilla and Jamie and all of that. But there are just like, there's only a select few people that actually dive into their mind in the way that we do. Yeah. That's why we wanted to give you this today, because we're like, this is everything, guys. Yeah. When you gain this like accountability, and you stop judging and projecting and saying, or like giving energy away and like saying it's this person's fault, or this person's
blaming the external environment around you for the reason why you feel the way you do.
Yeah, the reason why you're experiencing lack or limitation. And this can even look like blaming your parents and things like that. Like I did that for so long. I was like, well, it's my mum's fault because she had this belief, you know?
Yeah. And to be honest, people go through traumatic things as well. And yes, sometimes your parent or parents might have done something that is quite fucked up for you. And it's not about like completely being like distinguishing the bad that's happened to you, but it's identifying and being like, I don't want to keep repeating these old same habits. I want to shift the belief and shift the reality that I'm calling in, right? Yeah, that's what you're taking accountability for. Yeah,
and there are different levels of like what you're going to take responsibility for. Absolutely, but in general, just taking responsibility over your life and the decisions that you make. And exactly like, I like how you reframe that, like, regardless of what it was and what happened, like, do you want to stay there?
Yeah. Do you want to stay there? You're not responsible for what's happened to you, but you are responsible for what the future looks like.
Absolutely.
Put that on a t-shirt. You can change your future.
Yeah, it's all perspective, honestly. And there's so many different reasons as to why we go through different things in this universe. I mean, there are so many things like our soul contracts, soul purpose, past lives, fucking,
it goes on and
contracts we have with people. It's just, we can never fully understand
Yeah.
why like certain things happen to certain people and why other people don't experience it and blah, 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 blah. We don't have those answers, you know, we have speculation, but you know, we will never truly understand, and that's okay. That's not what the human experience is about. Like, we're here to just feel and co-create this experience and this reality, and we've completely digressed as we do as many Jen.
Yeah, so I guess now that like you're at this place where you identify your triggers, you probably, like, a lot of people go, well, then how the fuck do I reprogram them?
Yeah.
What do I do? Like, how do I start to change my reality? I've identified it. I'm jealous. Yeah, I'm fucking jealous. I'm angry.
Yeah.
Now what do I do?
Yeah, exactly. So this is when the reprogramming comes in, and this is like why we actually joined an accountability group, because it's like we know how to do the reprogramming work, you know, we understand it, but it's about the accountability of showing up every day and doing these things. So we wanted to offer you some of our favorite reprogramming tools that we play with, that we use. I know personally, like, I don't stick to one way of doing things. Like, I'm just the type of person that like needs to change it up, and that's with all of my practices. If I have like a really linear standard, at this time you wake up and you do this practice, like it worked for me once upon a time at a certain place in my journey when I actually needed like structure and like accountability to like, you know, show up. But now that like I infuse this work with my life, it's really different with how I show up with these practices. If I'm constantly just doing like one method day in, day out, I'm not going to do it. I will get so bored.
You want to be able to toolkit of what works best for you, what feels good. Like, you don't want to be like, oh, I have to go in to do a breath work when you're not really feeling like breath work's what you need. Maybe you just want to do a dance, or like you just want to do affirmations, or whatever feels good. You want to build a toolkit because you want to enjoy the practices. You don't want it to become a chore.
Exactly right. And we'll get into our toolkits.
Yeah, so they're pretty similar, but
basically the same thing.
Basically,
we're the same person. So our favorite is affirmations.
Affirmations.
We love a good affirmation.
And do you know why? Because your words are a big, what you feed your subconscious mind is a big part of what your reality looks like. So if you're, think about it like this, if your mind is programmed to believe like, you know, you're not worthy and all that, and you continue to believe it through your thoughts, imagine the power in retraining the subconscious mind. Your reality will start to reflect that. You know, saying things like I'm worthy or I'm wealthy, those are the things that, like, you know, if you can create a limiting belief, you can definitely unlearn it, right? You're not stuck with that. And that's what the affirmations do. They're speaking to the subconscious mind.
Absolutely. And with affirmations, there are like so many things I want to say with this topic. So with affirmations, I really, really recommend doing your own based on your limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us actually will go online and be like, okay, look up an affirmation, but it's not speaking to your direct limiting
and
belief.
your situation, right? So like we've spoken about this a lot, like we get hard on ourselves because, you know, something that, like, to be quite honest, something that I've worked through is a lot around body image and self-love and all that, right? If I went up there and started doing affirmations that I love my body, I love all these things, which is true, and we're working towards that, my body rejects that because it's like it's not really where it's at now, right? So then I would change that to I'm working on loving my body, and when I'm in my nervous system is in a good place, I would replace that affirmation, right? This is why it's so important to get the affirmation to be tailored to your situation. You know, you could be taking an affirmation offline on someone who's in a completely different financial circumstance to you, who has different trauma to you, have different, like, completely different belief system to you.
Absolutely. And what was the way, like, so for example, if you want to attract more wealth and you want to be rich, right? Say you want to be rich, but right now you're not experiencing that abundance in your reality. If you say the words, I am wealthy, take a moment right now, repeat that word to yourself, I am wealthy. What feeling did you get in your body? Were you like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm wealthy? Or were you like, that's not true? Like, did you kind of retract? If you had that that's not true response, then that means that affirmation isn't true to you, and that isn't going to be implemented in your nervous system, in your subconscious mind. The feeling that's going to be implemented is the feeling of it not being true. So this is why
you got to be careful with
you have to be careful of how it's worded, so that you are working with the subconscious mind in a really smart
Yeah,
way. So
like
you said something really important. Like you mentioned, what did you say the other day about an affirmation that like you can say instead? Like if you can't say I am wealthy because your body doesn't believe that yet.
I'm working towards my wealth, because that's the absolute truth. You are working towards that, or I'm working towards loving my body. I'm working towards a healthier version of me. I'm working on my health. Let's just say you wanted to, you know, you've had some physical issues. You just reframe it in what's good, in a way that feels good.
There's another thing that I want to add to that. I was actually reading that book that you purchased on the Audibles.
Yeah.
On the Audibles. Let me like old. I'm like fucking wow. It was called The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joe Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, he actually discusses this exact point about making sure that your subconscious and your nervous system believe the words that you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually suggested not attaching a story to the thing that you want to call in. The subconscious mind is not it's not biased, right? It doesn't have an opinion.
It's completely neutral. It's actually, that's a really good point you make, because this is why affirmations are so important. Your subconscious mind is like, it will do, and it will just feed whatever you say.
You had a good analogy not long ago where you said the subconscious mind is lazy. Like it
will do the minimum in what you tell it to do. If you say, this is where it gets like with affirmations around what you're trying to bring in, like especially around wealth, like, you know, you have to be pretty specific in what you want to call in as well. Like things like, I want more money is going to literally, like the subconscious mind takes that literally. It will give you $1 if it wanted to. It will do the bare minimum to get you there. So with your affirmations, you just got to make sure that it's
so that's like, it goes back to that. I guess that could even go into intention setting, which, you know, we should all be setting intentions for our lives and the things that we want to experience. That's really important. But with affirmations, it's so important to, like he said, to just use like one word that makes you feel good. So for example, we've just used the example of I am wealthy. If you're not experiencing that in your reality, then you would have felt that change in your body. You would have felt that not being true in your body right now. So instead, say the word wealth. How do you feel? Say the word abundance.
Say the word
success,
feeling that.
right? You just feel like, oh my God, yes. Like, fuck yes. Like, you know, that feels good. Your body's like, oh my God, great. That those words are high vibrational words. And just repeating that to yourself is so powerful, because you're filling your subconscious world with the idea of wealth, success, abundance.
Yeah, so it's really good to have affirmations that feels good for your nervous system. But I think what's most important as well is, or is just as important, is the repetition of your affirmations.
Yes, it's so important. We're just laughing because we would have cut this bit out, but she was repeating the same sentence and I thought she said repetition. She's adamant she said repetition.
We'll look back at the recording.
We'll look back.
The repetition, the consistency is really where the reprogramming comes in.
What did she say?
Repetition.
No, you didn't say that word. You said something completely different.
Can I hear it? No, you want to, the repetition and the consistency is what is actually going to train your subconscious mind. And I want to give this analogy. Can I just add this in part?
See what I mean?
Yeah, like, can I just add this in part?
I'm telling you guys, she said repetition.
Probably did. But anyway, the reason why is because, you know, it takes time for your subconscious mind to hold that belief or to do the action. Like, you didn't learn how to drive a car overnight. It took time. It took that repetition to do that. And that's no different with changing your beliefs.
Exactly right. It's the practice. It's the constantly showing up. And that's what makes this work tedious. It's what makes this work boring often. So, you know, sometimes it can be boring just sitting there saying those things to yourself, but you're thinking about the outcome of what it's going to get you, right? And you can make the practice as fun as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's what you make of it as well. Like, like it comes down to how badly do you want to change your reality, how badly do you want to make the change. And I feel good when I do my affirmations, like, holy shit, you know. I don't sit there being like, okay, I need it to be a ticked off task. It's like throughout the day, it's every time I make an action or every time I feel anxious, my affirmations come in there, like, I am safe, I am protected. That's what you make it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is what you make of it. But I've definitely felt that, I think, being on this journey for like 2 years now, you know, you get to this point of like, I'm gonna continue doing my affirmations. I'm gonna, and sometimes
They'll never stop.
They will never stop. And there's one belief, the one that I've been talking about on this in this episode was that this negative outlook on life. I had a really negative outlook on my experience, right? That was something that I've been working on for 2 years, and just this year, guys, I kid you not, just this year was when I started to just naturally start looking for the positive and thinking about the positive in situations. So when something inconvenient would show up, I wouldn't think of my life as shit, fuck, this always happens to me, which is what I would do. Now I think of, oh, the universe is looking out for me. This had to happen. Oh, what lesson am I learning in this? The day that actually happened, I nearly cried because I was I noticed that within me, and I was like, oh my God, I've done it. I've done it.
No, honestly, it's so good. I just want to go back to that point where you said affirmations can be tedious, right? It's not one of those situations where you've got a list of affirmations, you say them at the start of the day, you go about your merry day, and then at the night you probably do the same thing. No, this is your affirmations are actually the words you speak to yourself throughout the entire day. Affirmations are not like this list, well, they are, but they're not these lists that you just work through on a daily basis. It's the fucking words you use on a consistently, there's no point saying I'm wealthy and then going and saying I'm broke 5 minutes later when you're being put in a situation where you have to spend. Or do you get what I mean? It's how for me, affirmations are not they're the language I choose to speak to myself by, how I choose to speak to myself.
It's literally
you're reprogramming actually reprogramming your beliefs. You don't. Yeah, it's just not. It shouldn't be a chore. It really shouldn't. This should be your how you now moving forward start to speak to yourself.
I feel like I just got in trouble for saying that, guys. Tedious.
No, I didn't mean like that.
But it can be
it can
these
be
practices.
Tedious,
you're just constantly coming back to it, and it can feel like. It can feel like
it
that. They
feel
do
like
make
that.
You feel good after it, but that initial push to get you to actually sit down with yourself and do it. It can.
And constantly
tedious.
Correcting your language and things like that. It takes time.
But I do agree with the perspective of affirmations aren't just in the morning and at night, and this is something I also adopt in my life. It's what the language you use when you're in conversations with people, how you talk about yourself, all of that, and I think that that's really important.
Because
I want to actually mention this study. I'm what a perfect place to just chuck this in there. I was doing research on Dr. Emoto, who was a Japanese scientist who actually found that different words actually influenced water molecules in a different way. So he actually found, you can look this up, his study showed that high vibrational language, so things like love, forgiveness, thank you, things like that, actually the water molecules will form in this synchronistic, beautiful way. They kind of look like snowflakes. That's how the water molecules will respond to that vibration. But then when they used words like evil, disgust, and things like that, the water molecules became obscure and completely fucked up. Yeah, it was just this it's this actual physical tangible proof of how our words carry vibrations and how that actually has a play-on effect with our physical reality. It's literally supporting the idea of affirmations changing you on a biological level, because guys, we are 60% water.
It's true.
So if we're made up of water, and this is what we found in studies that show that words actually impact the formation of water molecules. I mean, what does that mean for us? It's a powerful understanding.
True.
Other things that we love to do, I think affirmations are the most important and the most consistent that we do for reprogramming. We really, really love to neutralize our limiting beliefs as a part of our reprogramming practice, which is something we've also learned in Pleasure Codes. So neutralizing limiting beliefs is so powerful. I mean, if there's something that I've learned from ETs and connecting to higher vibrational beings, is that they are fucking masters of their energy. They know themselves. They are so particular with how they emit their energy and how they vibrate. And that is something, when I look at a human soul compared to an ET soul, I'm just fuck, you can see the difference. The human soul is just completely sporadic, and it's like, I don't know what to do with all these emotions because it's feeling everything in such a dense, like we're feeling everything so densely and so intensely, and we're not taught how to manage our emotions and our frequency.
Yeah.
Whereas an ET is just like, it's like a master of his energy field.
No, that's fucking insane. You had an experience with actually seeing one at one point. We won't go into that because...
No, I think I've gone on to it on the podcast anyway. ET in my room.
Go watch that episode.
So yeah, like it's really, really powerful to neutralize these negative emotions, because with these emotions, the reason why like we have limiting beliefs, like you are carrying a belief to that thing. You're feeding that reality. You're feeding that energy. So consciously, we can be aware and be like, okay, well, I know that the bullying I received in the first grade about me was having a big nose is not true. I know that that's not true. You know, I love my nose. I'm fine, blah, 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 right? So
you got the cutest nose.
Thanks. But like, I'm just using an example, right? I know that that's not true as an adult, right? But subconsciously, my nervous system believes that it is true, and it's
a memory stored in there, right?
It's a memory stored. It's, you know, it's formed in my memory system. So to break that apart now, I dive into those sorts of emotions. Now that's like a really minor one, but I dive into everything. Like I dive into the fear of failure in the things that I want to go after. I dive into everything, this fear of lack, all of it.
So yeah, so how do you neutralize that? You face it?
I face it head on, right?
So this gets really, like, some people go, oh, that's fucked up. Like, how does that work? So the only way to get through some of your limiting beliefs and fear is by neutralizing them, by imagining and facing them and feeling them at their worst core, right? And actually, you know, if we're looking at just say some limiting beliefs around fear or anything like that, you would go into the feelings, you would envision the scenario happening. I don't know if you do this.
Yeah.
You imagine it happening and you get your nervous system, you get yourself at a point to be comfortable with that outcome or with that situation, right?
Yeah, and I do this like with everything, guys. Like I was afraid to go into the forest alone. Like I was scared of being like taken and kidnapped. I sat there and I envisioned what it would be like to go through that entire process.
Yeah.
I literally did that, and it was really interesting. At the end of it, I came to this point and I was like, oh, like at the end of it, I was like, but I would still just be okay. Like I'll still get out of it. I'll still figure it out. Like regardless of, it kind of like neutralizes the fear, and then you get to see you get to see that is not even like, it's unlikely.
It's
like,
unlikely. You get
unlikely to happen.
You get to realize how sometimes your limiting beliefs are so irrational. So if you had this thing of, I have an ugly nose, you would literally feel into that and be like, I have an ugly nose, or no, a big nose, sorry, not an ugly nose.
Yeah.
You would feel into that. How does that make you feel? You might want to cry. You might be upset at the circumstance that happened. But then by feeling it, you're releasing it.
Yeah.
You feel it and it just goes out of your body, and then you start to like calm your nerve. Like there's something that happens with neutralizing that fear that you go, this isn't as bad as I think.
Well, that's the thing. Like, emotion wants to be felt.
Yeah,
emotion
we came here.
Energy.
We came here to feel.
Energy. Yeah, and if you look at like quantum physics and you look at the actual like science behind energy, what do we know about energy? It cannot be created. It cannot be destroyed, right?
Yeah.
So we cannot get rid of it. We have to move through it. We have to transmute it some way. All it wants to do is pass through your body. If you push down an emotion, you're like, I'm not going to feel my negative emotions. Guess what? That's becoming
stagnant in the body.
In your body, and it can manifest physically as well with physical ailments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like this is why the limiting beliefs work is so important, and why the reprogramming is so important, because like you don't want to stagnate the emotion in your body, because your limiting beliefs are carrying a lot of bad emotions to it. I'm going to use that word, but a lot of not so great emotions, like they're limiting beliefs for a reason. They're not, they're not good. So do you want that to stagnate in your body? You need to feel it. Whatever feels good for you. Do you need to cry? You just have to release it. Sometimes even neutralizing it through dancing or whatever, whatever feels good, as long as you're feeling what it feels like.
Well, exactly right. Like sometimes it's hard to go into those really dark places and those dark feelings. Like sometimes the limiting beliefs can be dark or really hard to feel. And I'll actually use movement to get into those feelings like a bit more, right?
Sometimes you need to, like, especially when a limiting beliefs, there's anger involved, is all it wants to do is you need to express. That's one that I find it's frustrating to keep stagnant.
Yeah, you have to move.
Yeah, and I even want to give an example of how, like, maybe with my health anxiety, what I did to neutralize that. How did I start to reprogram my beliefs?
Yeah. How did you do it?
So I had experienced, I think it was in 2020, I would say pretty severe health anxiety after a bit of a health scare. I got a blood clot in one of my legs from being on the pill, and there we go. What happens? Nadia got reprogrammed to think that she was going to die, and every time I had to go to the doctors, and what did my subconscious mind do? It thought I was under threat all the time, and it would create problems that weren't there. All of a sudden, physical things were happening to me. I went into panic anytime something was wrong with my body or whatever, right? See, the programming then happened, right? But then what the belief was that I was unsafe, and that what happens if I get an illness? These were the things that I had to face. It's much easier. Well, actually, it's actually harder. But what I did before getting into this work is I would ignore that. I would feel anxiety. I would feel shit about it, but I would ignore it. Then I got into this work of neutralizing the belief. So I went to the extent of going, the trigger would come up, and then anxiety would happen, and I need to feel it. So I'd go to the level of feeling what it would feel like if something were to happen to me. What if I got the illness? And it was fucking uncomfortable. It's not a nice feeling. Like, health anxiety is it's a really scary form of anxiety to have. Like, anxiety is not good in general, but this feeling was just like you feel like you're lacking so much control in your life. And I went to that level, and the anxiety became so profound. And then the more I kept envisioning it happening, and the more I tried to realize that I am not in control, the fear slowly starts to neutralize, because it's more exhausting to live a life with having this fear inside me. And I could start to feel it moving throughout my body. It's like, well, I don't have control over this circumstance. And that's the key, right? Like, just facing it head on. I felt it. It wanted to be felt. It wanted to be moved out. It didn't want to stay in my body. Yeah. And
that's powerful. Yeah. I remember that day you came over, and I could actually feel the energetic shift with you. And you looked me, like, I remember you looked me in the eye, and you were like, I would be fine. Like, you looked at me and you're like, even if I got sick, I would be fine. And that's exactly where she needed to get. She needed to get to a point of being not feeding it, not being comfortable, but just not feeding it energy, right? Just this complete surrender of like, if that is the reality that I'm here to face, then I would be fine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Because I love the universe, and I trust the universe.
The universe has my best intention at heart. It knows what it's doing. It knows, like, it's, everything is happening, best case scenario. If this is a lesson I need to learn or whatever, I just remember that utter, like,
it's like what I was doing for a long time was trying to control and be like, I'm safe, I'm healthy, and all these things are true, and the fear is irrational, don't get me wrong. But it was actually getting to a point of like, the only way I'm going to neutralize this is by just letting go of the fear. Yeah, it's this lack of control. That's the issue. It's the lack of control. Yeah. So that's what we mean by actually neutralizing it. It's feeling. If you're watching the video, you can see me right now. It's like getting that out, and I even with anger, like shaking it out, like screaming it out, like move the thing. Like,
I have that, and I like punch my bed and hit my bed with it. Just
don't want to be in your room.
You don't want to be in the room while I'm doing it.
I broke my tripod the other day.
She's like, I just did an anger ritual, and she's like, broke my tripod, need a new one.
What are you going to do? My lighting for some of my videos haven't been good since, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. Sorry, I had to take that off you. The most important thing about neutralizing emotion, it's not about staying in that negative emotion. It's like one thing to actually feel it, but it's so important to then replace it. So if you're going to put this in your reprogramming toolkit, which I highly recommend, going into those types of emotions only when they arise as well. Like if you're waking up and you feel really good one day, don't force yourself to like get into a negative emotion just to go into like an alchemy practice of like releasing and transmuting. Only do it when the emotion is coming up or when you're being triggered. That's really important because vibration is everything. You know, you're going to attract the things that your vibration attracts the reality that you're experiencing, right? So the most important thing after an alchemy session like that, if you're going to go into negative, low emotions like that, is to then replace it with love and gratitude and that feeling of abundance and expansion.
Yeah.
So I like to always do the neutralizing work first, and then I'll replace it with like my affirmations and like, you know, sensual dance, anything that like makes me feel high vibrational and good.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So a couple of other things, like we won't get like too into it. I feel like those two things were the main things that we've done. But other things that you can put into like your reprogramming toolkit are things like EFT tapping, which is emotional freedom technique. You actually tap on like meridian points in the body to actually release that belief or that emotion. That's one of my favorite things to do. I actually recently did a course where I became accredited in EFT tapping.
I'm gonna do that soon.
So good. I didn't think I was gonna love it as much because I was playing around with EFT and I didn't really understand it because I was doing like Gala Darling's videos and things like that. She's amazing, by the way. Definitely a good introductory to like start EFT tapping. However, like when you actually like understand EFT and do it with like a practitioner or do it specifically for you, formulated for your beliefs, it's powerful like with that release.
Yeah,
so
it's
EFT,
quite popular.
yeah, I love that. Another one that I really love is journaling out the limiting beliefs and saying what's true, what's not true. Yeah.
Even just getting to the bottom of some of your limiting beliefs is really important. Like journaling's awesome to get like thoughts to paper. Like the more you write, it's just like the more comes out. So even just writing down, there's something that happens with the subconscious mind when you're writing down. I don't know if you know this, it has such a big effect on the reprogramming of the subconscious mind
that actually,
compared to if you were to type it up and stuff
it embeds into
it embeds it. There's something, I don't know the science behind it, but something happens with actually writing it out.
It's like you pay more attention to it. It's like it's more important the fact that you're writing it down. But yeah, journaling is really helpful. Even like journaling out your limiting beliefs and being like, how are these actually not true? Like debunking them and
replacing it with the truth.
Replacing them with the truth. And then what I like to do is take it a step further as well, is go into the truth and start to actually dive into how the truth is true. You know, like, oh, actually this is true. And proving to myself how that affirmation is true.
Absolutely.
But this changes. Like, you know, we just feel into the day. Do we feel like doing EFT today? Do we feel like dance? Like, what do we feel like doing? But journaling is a really, really good one. What else?
Mantras, which is part of affirmations as well.
Yeah, they're like affirmations.
Yeah.
Hypnosis.
Hypnosis is really good. I don't do hypnosis nearly enough as I should.
Yeah, hypnosis is really powerful.
You got to be careful where you get them from. Where you get them from.
Yeah,
see?
I recommend going to Gaia. Go to Gaia. If you have a subscription, you can do it there. Be really mindful of doing YouTube ones. Like, make sure you really trust the person. I know Lior Alexandra.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've done a couple of hers. We do her breath work, which is insane.
She does one hypnosis one. Really, really good. Just be mindful of who you're letting take you into that state. Like, you are in complete control with hypnosis. But whatever is feeding your subconscious mind when you get into that like theta brainwave state. So that's the idea of hypnosis. It's taking you to that theta brainwave state. That is where you are actually accessing the subconscious mind directly, which is so fucking powerful. And then you're feeding it beliefs. But you know, you can actually get to that state out of hypnosis as well. So you can actually access that state when you're coming out of sleep. So just that as you're like waking up, that is the theta, like you're in the theta state there. That's when you should start repeating those. So often when people are waking up, they'll start to say, like, they'll start to think about what they need to do for the day. But instead of doing that, think about the affirmations, like think about wealth, think about success.
Yeah.
Start thinking that.
You can get to this state of meditation as well.
You can. I think with meditation,
It's a bit harder then.
it's actually the alpha state, so it's not
Yeah.
complete theta,
Mm.
but it's alpha. So it's like the theta state is what you want. Like that's like the most powerful time to actually to train the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
There was actually a point where I created like a track. I recorded myself saying my affirmations, and as I was waking up, like when I just woke up, I would grab my headphones and put on that track, and I would just listen to them. But now I kind of just like repeating it to myself in my head and just saying,
there's
like,
something
wow.
there's a power in listening to yourself.
Yeah, power with listening to your own words. Actually say it, and just as you're going to bed. So those are the most like powerful times to like say those sorts of words. But yeah, hypnosis so good as well. There are just so many different things that you can try. Mirror work is also a really good one where you look at yourself in the mirror and you like hype yourself up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
So
love
good.
it. These are such, oh my God, I get so excited about this work.
These practices are amazing. So finally is the accountability piece.
Yeah, right.
So we just wanted to finalize with this point.
Yeah, okay. So what we mean by the accountability piece is everything we've said up until this point is how to like train your subconscious mind. But ultimately, the decisions you make, what you lean into is ultimately what shifts the reality, because that's where you're really telling your subconscious, I'm not feeding that anymore. For example, if Shulzy and Nadia had, actually I'm just going to talk about Shule here. Shule's money issue, right? If you've gone on her recent YouTube videos, she spoke about her laptop that she purchased. Now, Shule's been working through her money beliefs, right? In that moment, the fear of, I don't have money for this right now. This is silly. I shouldn't buy that. Even though her higher self was saying, you need this. You're going on to doing a lot of content development. Your laptop's not working. What changes the reality is Shule going to feed into that narrative of I don't have that money, or is she going to step into her power and actually purchase the laptop? That is the scary part. It's actually being like, am I going to feed this anymore? And by taking that action, you're really reprogramming the subconscious mind, because what she's telling herself by actually purchasing it and not listening to those beliefs is what you're really saying is, I'm safe. I do have enough money. I am worthy. That ultimately you can say these things to your black and blue in the face, but your actions matching what you're saying.
Yeah, I agree.
So this is where the accountability piece comes in. One of the things I've been really fearful of is public speaking. Am I going to feed into that and keep telling myself that I'm not good at speaking? Or am I going to do the scary thing and know that I'm here to make change, know that I'm here to help people through this work?
Yeah, you're going to like go on lives.
Am I going to go on lives and
you're going to like create the podcast?
I'm actually going to do the things. I'm not going to feed that reality anymore. The things that scare me, I'm not going to feed it. And that's ultimately what is changing my reality, because I tell you now, when I stepped into out of my comfort zone, my entire belief system is really shifting. I went from thinking I'm so bad at public speaking to doing like a few lives to going like, I actually see this being a huge part of who I am. Like, I think I'm falling in love with like public speaking. How fucked is that?
And guys, like the first live she ever did, she was like on the phone to me and she's like, I'm never doing that again. That's not for me. I don't even like it, Shule. And I was like, shut up. Yes, you do.
Yeah. And there's obviously, it takes time. Like, I'm learning, but I'm changing my belief system, because I'm like, actually, that's not as scary as I thought. Like, so it's really the accountability piece of being like, what decision am I going to make today that's going to change my reality?
Love that. And I love that we're ending on that note. So it's like, working with yourself, working with the beliefs, identifying them, and then actually making that fucking conscious change, right?
Yeah,
consciously changing. But I just want to know, like, it will be a bit of back and forth when you first start.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got to think you've had like how old you are, whatever. You've like spent like how many years doing the same patterns, doing the same things, and what compared to now when you're conscious. Like for me, I've spent like 23 years in this like loop, that same cycle, and now just like the 2 years of being conscious, like, it takes time for things to change. It takes time for things to like implement in your reality. Some things are going to implement faster. Some things are going to stick faster. Some things are going to take time. Like my belief about like my negative projection on the world, that, I started working on that in 2020.
Yeah.
And like what's 2022 now, and I finally think that way naturally now.
Yeah.
But it took me showing up every day and choosing to make a different decision,
Absolutely.
stepping into like discomfort and all of that.
Make decisions from who you want to be, not who you currently are.
Love that. Put that on a
T-shirt.
t-shirt and let's finish it off here.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you in the next
I
episode.
was going to say thank you.
Oh,
guys.
yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for joining and listening.
Thanks for listening. Thank you. I hope that this really landed, and I hope that it taught you something. I hope that, you know, there was just lots of like takeaways on like how you can start to implement some of this stuff in your own journey. Reach out to us if you want to start like, you know, having this conversation around this topic. It's just one that has completely changed my life. I know it's completely changed your life.
Completely
as
different
well.
reality.
Absolutely. Constantly
Here
changing.
for it.
Here for it.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you in next week's episode.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Bye. If you loved today's episode, please do not forget to rate and review in iTunes or Spotify.
If you would love to connect with us on a more intimate platform, you can find us both on Instagram at Shule Ozek and at Nadia Gali. We would love to connect with you.
Thanks for listening.